On a cold September morning, the rain drummed loudly, pounding on the metal windowsill. The drops often chased and rolled down with the sound of the piercing wind licking the window frame. The weather was literally screaming, "Stay home." You don't need this job of lounging under a blanket. Youth is for doing stupid things. Besides the noise, rain, and wind, there was a sepulchral silence in the room, which was cut by the sharp old man from the loud alarm clock. A thin hand with long fingers and a clear manicure peeked out from under a white, fluffy, airy blanket. The hand shrugged on top of the pillow, then ducked under it, and finally pulled out the hated phone somewhere in the middle of the bed. A lush cabin showed brown hair, shot up, thick, wrapped in a tight bundle, and only then did the girl's pained face show. It was the face of the most miserable man in the world. It was the face whose sleep had been cut short on the sweetest note. And Adriana, without opening her eyes, sat up on the bed, lost her face with both hands. Hung there for a few moments, examining her own feet. There was not a single thought in her head at that moment. There was no way the dream wanted to let her go. Pieces of the sweetest night's rest, sticky between her clothes, flowed out of her head and dissolved into the morning reality. For now it was hard for her to focus and engage in the day, just as the connection to the present began to grow stronger, to form ideas, thoughts, like a tightrope, pulling her consciousness into the everyday. The girl stood up, stretched, twisted her head and turned on the light in the neat little girl's room. Adriana removed a few prepared outfits from an open hanger, stepped out into the common hallway in bare feet, quickly jogged into the bathtub and carefully closed the door behind her. There was silence and semi-darkness in the multi-channeled apartment. The girl carefully tried to preserve the sleep of her neighbors. Even the tube of toothpaste opened barely audible and carefully. Her every movement was careful and neat, calibrated, practiced. It seemed as if she could perform the washing procedure with her eyes closed. At last, she washed away the remnants of sleep from her still slightly childish face, wiped it with a fresh, fluffy pink towel, and looked at herself carefully in the mirror. "I won't eat any more pickles at night. I'm like a drinking ball," grudgingly muttered Adriana under his nose and went out. The girl slipped noiselessly into the kitchen, clicked in the kettle, threw 2 slices of bread into the toaster, and lit the stove. Carefully, without making too much noise, poured water into the plumber and threw 2 chicken eggs in there. I sat down on a chair, unlocked my phone and read the message. "Kate, hi, you don't have to go out today. I've already left for my shift. Cheers. Sorry I didn't give you a heads up yesterday. It slipped my mind. I really need next Tuesday. It's Grandma's birthday. I hope you haven't packed an emoji heart yet. What the hell are you?" Adriana was cursing. There was nothing to do. Breakfast was half cooked, so she ate her breakfast in peace and went back to her room. She didn't answer anything to the message, downloaded her favorite series and drifted into the blankets like a cocoon. Halfway through the series, she managed to fall into a slumber under the oak-killing muttering from her phone. She woke up deep past 12. Adriana liked to fall asleep like that. During the day, she woke up awake, full of energy, with interesting ideas in her head. The girl was in no hurry to get up. Unblocked, almost sat-down cell phone. She leafed through the news and caught a glimpse of the avatars of the young man. So if I went to his page, he'd see it. But how would I get a closer look at the picture? And Adriana began her spy manipulations. She logged out of the social network, went under a pseudonym through common friends and opened the page she was interested in. Jumped up on the bed, quickly fuzzy blanket, and exclaimed, "Yes, cannot be. It can't be, Michael." She quickly pawed at her cell phone screen, copied the link to the guy's page and sent it to her friend. Then wrote a long message. Betty, remember when we were in high school with the boy? He literally transferred to our school for 6 months. I think he was in 6th or 7th grade. There he is, can you believe it?" Betty didn't read the message for a long time. Then Adriana got out of bed, walked from the window to the door, unlocked her phone and repeated the walk. Why doesn't she read? It was her day off. She put the phone in her pocket and opened the door to the room. The apartment was still silent, only it was already very bright. The doors to all the rooms were open and light was building from the windows. It filled the apartment with extra air. No one, Adriana exhaled. She liked to be alone. Not that the neighbors stressed her out. She had even become friends with some of them. Sometimes had tea in the evenings with the student from the next room. But she didn't maintain a particularly close relationship. She didn't have much time. She was at home very rarely. The girl opened the door wide and left the room. She went to the kitchen, deep into the refrigerator in search of something tasty. But alas, her shelf was decorated with expired yogurt and a small piece of very old cheese. It had already managed to become nobly covered in the appropriate mold. Adriana picked it up carefully with 2 fingers and tossed it into the trash. Almost simultaneously with her movement, Za vibrated the phone in her pocket. Adriana quickly pulled it out. Her friend replied to the message, "Yeah, no, that's not him." Adriana quickly replied, "Yes, it is. Look, he had a slight scar on his left cheek. He told me what it was from, but I don't remember." "Yeah, well, it's definitely him. He can't be that cool." "He wasn't that cool in high school." "Well, you were no good in high school," Adriana said cheekily. "What are you like with an existing smiley face?" replied her friend. "Do you think I should show him the page?" "No, wait. What if he has someone else? Come on, we'll just have to watch." "Okay, what are your plans? Why don't we go out?" Adriana didn't feel like going out today. The weather was really bad. The morning rain didn't stop. It stopped for a while, and then it started again, as if it was trying to shed all the water before the first frost. "Let's not go." "You've seen the weather, but right if you think of it. I'm not really looking forward to it either, but I'd throw it." "Okay." Adriana set the phone aside and flopped down, her own thoughts. She hugged the huge mug of tea with both hands. The apartment was warm, but it felt like the girl was warming her hands. Memories of school, Betty, Michael, teacher Kathy flashed through her mind. In the kitchen, the aroma of diffusion kicked in and brought Adriana out of her daze. How had Michael managed to become so successful? Adriana burrowed into her phone, followed the link, opened his page. The avatar showed a young, trim, statuesque young man with beautiful and expensive tattoos, expensive watches on the background of a prestigious sports car. The girl leafed through the photos of him abroad. Here he is in an expensive store, and here he is in a restaurant. Beautiful, rich life literally poured from the screen of the cell phone on Adriana. Shit, no, he can't be that rich. Adriana poked and pushed the phone away with disdain. For some reason, Adriana took luxury and minimal prosperity as a personal insult. Probably because the girl had worked from an early age. Adriana was born in the backwoods, in a small village, somewhere on the outskirts of life. Her parents were very young. Her mother gave birth to her at exactly the age she was supposed to be walking. She met Adriana's father too soon, and they fell in passionate love. And then there was Adriana. It was very difficult for the girl to get used to the new status of motherhood, so Adriana got all the delights of her parents' idle lifestyle. While they lived with her parents, her mother, everything was relatively good. The little girl was left with her grandmother and sent for walks. But as soon as the girl was 2 years old, the parents decided to earn money and moved to a neighboring town. With work there was easier to work, there were factories, there were jobs. Except that the parents took Adriana with them. Frequent hypothermia, falling asleep in strange places. And she was forgotten and left at the store, in the entrance, in the car, near the DK. Luckily, if I may say so. The situation, of course, is extremely dramatic, but in the end everything ended well for the child, but badly for Adriana's parents. Once it happened that little Adriana and her parents went on a spring picnic. Spring was extremely cold, and despite the hot sun and the middle of April, the snow was not planning to leave the earth, and there was still ice on the rushing river. So it was then that the girl's parents and a group of friends decided to go for shashliks. Alcohol and carelessness played a cruel joke. Adriana's dad decided to test the thinness of the ice. He was almost immediately swept away by a strong current. Rescuers were not able to save him in time. The girl's mother could not cope with her grief, left after her husband from addictions. However, immediately after the death of her father, Adriana was taken for upbringing by her mother's parents. The grandmother of the soul in the girl did not tea. Grandfather alone, traces in severe dry, instantly melted into a soft, pliable bread. He adored the child madly. They did not have much money, but they tried to compensate for the lack of funds. With her love, the grandmother knitted and sewed beautiful clothes for Adriana. Grandfather built a slide in the winter, and in the summer they constantly walked, went fishing and to the forest for mushrooms. The girl grew up inquisitive, educated, and very well brought up. Adriana was very hardworking. She helped to sell berries in the summer, scrubbed floors in the local DK, and helped on the farm. Nothing much has changed since then. She still takes part-time jobs and sends the old people a penny. Money in the big city is given to her with great difficulty. That's probably why she despises the luxury and wealth of those who have been given everything by their parents. After a little silence, Adriana got up, turned on some music, and started to get ready to go to the local store. Her stomach was already sticking out from hunger. Outside, the rain gave no hint of relief. Strong gusts of wind frightened the girl. But there was nothing to do. Hunger drove her outside. There was no need to go far. Literally go around the apartment building. The store was right in the house, but it was in her backyard. A car splashed her. "Young lady, please forgive me. I didn't notice you at all." A young male voice came from a beautiful, expensive car. A thin trickle of water erased her footprints. She was wet, literally from head to toe. She wanted to fall under the ground right at that moment. She didn't answer anything and literally ran to the store, grabbing a couple of yogurts, diet breads, and chicken for dinner. She hurried out, but the same ill-fated car was standing at the entrance. "Young lady, excuse me, please take the tickets as an apology." A hand with an expensive watch stuck out of the window, and in the hand were concert tickets. Adriana is not the type to make acquaintances this way, but these were tickets to a concert of her favorite artist, so she just couldn't afford not to take them. But before she walked to the car, she decided to make sure that if she took them, no one would demand payment. "I don't need this." "Yeah, take it. Go with a girlfriend or boyfriend. I can't make it anyway. I have to fly out tonight, and you'll have a good time." "All right. Thank you very much." Adriana quickly snatched the tickets out of her hand and ran home. Her heart was pounding frantically in the girl's chest. She could not believe her happiness. Still in the entranceway, began to call her friend. But the connection there was very bad. "Betty, are you sleeping there?" Adriana shouted her friend's name loudly, opening the front door. "No, I just can't hear you very well. First of all, let's get ready. I'm holding 2 tickets to Marseille." "Turnip? What? Where?" "Oh, that's the story. Anyway, I went to the store and it was raining. But I got drenched by a car coming into the yard. I ran to the store, and when I got out, the guy in the car apologized. Just like that, he gave me these tickets. That's bullshit. They must be fake." "No, they're real. Come on." "Adriana, you're a piece of work. We'll get there and they'll tell us we're stupid. We'll waste our time, as if you have big plans for the evening to lie around and eat sweets. I'm telling you to pack up." "All right, you got it. Just the cab's on you." "Okay. Be ready at 7. "Okay." Adriana was not in the mood for the weather. She turned up the music and started to get ready for the concert. The girl sang into her hairbrush, made funny grimaces at the mirror reflection of the guys, beating herself up as best she could. At this moment, she imagined how the singer invites her to the stage as he holds out the microphone to her and then invites her to the dressing room. For the image, she chose the coolest thing she had. Despite the chill, a short dress, high heels, and a leather jacket. In general, these clothes didn't fit Adriana's personality, but she didn't want to stand out from the crowd. She unraveled her lush mop of hair and walked a few times. You noticed and spritzed with her neighbor's perfume. She didn't have any of her own, but she could tell from the bottle that it was expensive. Adriana jumped out of the apartment. A notification came to her phone. She decided that she would read the message in the cab, dictated the address, and the car started. The display on the old phone showed the avatar of the very same Michael. Adriana couldn't believe her eyes. The girl had completely forgotten that a couple of hours ago she had spit on caution and wool the guy's page from her account. So it wasn't hard at all to figure out Michael's spiel. "Hey, didn't we go to the same high school by any chance? Yeah, your face looked familiar to me, too, when the page popped up in the offer. That's cool. Have you changed?" "You have, too, and a lot. What do you do?" "I work and study. And you?" "Yeah, pretty much the same. Why don't we get together sometime?" Adriana's heart pounded twice as hard. She hadn't expected Michael to send her such a message. "Yeah, I didn't expect any message at all. I'm not going to answer him. I'll show Betty's correspondence first." The cab car rolled smoothly down the roads of the yards like a huge drop in time with the rain. Mentally, Adriana hurried at the driver, but she didn't give any sign. Her whole gut was taut as a string. This day was full of surprises. Finally, the driver arrived at her friend's driveway, but Betty was nowhere to be seen. Adriana unlocked her cell phone and called. "Where are you?" "I'm pulling up." "I'm getting out." A minute later, the driveway door opened and Betty stepped out. Skinny jeans, looked like they were about to burst, leather jacket and a high ponytail. She was obviously pleased with herself. Betty sat down next to Adriana. The car moved on down the route. Betty looked at Adriana and immediately realized something was wrong. Adriana unlocked her phone and showed her correspondence with Michael. "What are you, Sveta?" Again, page yes, forgot to change the account. "It's amazing. Why didn't you answer him? I don't even know what to say to him." "Give me your phone." Betty took the phone from her friend and started typing something quickly. Adriana tried to peek, but Betty turned the screen away from her nosy friend. Finally, with a smile, she locked the phone and held it out to Adriana. "For tomorrow at 8 o'clock, he's picking you up." "Tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Did you just tell him my address? Are you crazy? What's the big deal?" "What if he's a maniac? How would you know?" "Maniacs but go on rest and think. They don't drive sports cars. Maybe that's how he made his fortune. That's how a former classmate writes to her ex-girlfriend. And then sells it on the black market. He'd run out of classmates by now." Dummy Betty laughed out loud. That's why he changed schools so often. He'd been planning his big plan since he was a kid. He was so well prepared, he'd been calculating everything since he was 10. Of course, don't be ridiculous. The girls laughed and asked the driver to turn up the music. Adriana was in an amazing mood. She felt like it was her birthday. She had never dreamed of going to the concert she was on her way to. And the prospect of a relationship with a rich, handsome and successful guy was a Hollywood dream altogether. The car slid by quickly, and the line stretched in long, multicolored threads down almost the entire street to the concert hall, despite the nasty weather. It was very difficult to see where it ended. The girls got out of the car. Betty cursed loudly and expressively, examining the queue. "Betty, we have a VIP. We don't need to stand there. We go next door." "Oh, right. I forgot." The girls went to the next door and handed the tickets to the big man. Adriana couldn't believe her luck. When the ticket stub was torn off and the door was opened in front of them. "Come in. Please show the girl your tickets. She'll show you to your seats." "Thank you." In one voice, the friends replied. After the metal detector, they were indeed met by a pretty girl. She checked the tickets and gestured in which direction they should go. She followed her friends. "Are you girls in position? The drinks and appetizers you see on the table are included in the ticket price. The concert starts in 15 minutes. So you're all set here. Thank you." Again in one voice said the dumbfounded friends. The girls sat down on the soft sofas. They were quiet for a while. Then Betty took out her cell phones and gestured for Adriana to sit closer. "Let's do it again, or no one will ever believe us. Come on." The girls were having a lot of fun, laughing, taking pictures. The neighboring VIP zones were empty, so they felt very relaxed. A couple of minutes before the start of the concert, a guy and a girl came to the neighboring VIC. Adriana felt slightly self-conscious, so she gave Betty a little tug. The two of them quieted down, and when the singer took the stage, the neighboring VIC began to fill up. Betty looked carefully at the guys and girls coming in, and her eyes rounded. Adriana, look." Betty tugged on Adriana's arm and literally jabbed her finger at the young men in the next stall. Adriana looked at the group but didn't understand what her friend was talking about. "What are you doing?" "It's Michael." Adriana looked more closely at the faces of the young people. Finally, she found Michael and her face stretched with surprise. "Wow, what is he doing here?" The music was getting louder and louder, so the girls had to shout loudly to each other, "I don't know what he's doing here, but it's obviously for a reason." For the rest of the concert, they had to spy on the young man, but the guy paid no attention to them. They celebrated something, often made toasts, raised their glasses. At the end of the gig, the guys were clearly drunk. "Ew, Betty, he's a drunk," Adriana muttered. "What makes you think that? Everybody's a drunk. Even if it's just a drink. But yeah, you know my parents' story. I don't tolerate alcohol at all. Yeah, that's bad. But not everyone is like your parents." I guess Adriana looked at the company, once again, wrinkled her nose. Suddenly the music stopped playing, and the artist started to say something. "Betty, we have a number." "What's the location?" "I don't know, Vika, but look, 286 I 287. Betty, he named our place." "No, you imagined it?" "Yes, I'm telling you for sure." The girls watched everyone in the audience, twisted their heads, and were very shy to go on stage. The actor turned directly to them. "You two pretty modest. Stop pretending you're not here. Come on out. Come on, Betty. He's telling us, what are we gonna do? Let's go. Everybody's looking at us. It's like a dream." Oh my gosh. The girls made a sensation on stage. The entire audience applauded them, and you could feel the envy in the air. As soon as they got on stage, they hugged the singer, and he asked them about their favorite songs. Both girls, as if conspiring, named a star at the same time. At that moment, the artist offered to perform it, and his assistant promptly brought out additional microphones for the girls. After their performance, the singer invited them to the dressing room. There, in a cozy atmosphere, they continued the evening, sharing jokes, laughter, and moments of joy. A cheerful photo shoot was a pleasant end to the evening. Later, the singer's assistants took the girls home, leaving behind only memories of this magical evening. Amazed and inspired by the evening, the girls could not believe what had happened. To meet their favorite artist, perform at his concert, and spend time together in the dressing room was just incredible. They discussed every detail of this amazing experience, reviewed the photos they had taken, and gave in to the excitement and joy. But the most important thing was what happened that night. Adriana noticed Michael. The girl had not yet suspected that the young man had fallen in love with her. It was like a movie, like a TV series. Michael did not immediately recognize her, but when he realized that a couple of hours ago he corresponded with her, he could not believe his eyes. Despite the fact that he really was quite drunk, he looked at her and recorded her singing on his phone. That evening, he and his company were celebrating his best friend's birthday. In general, they weren't supposed to go to the concert, but something there changed and they ended up there. Trax and Betty. When Michael saw Adriana's page, he immediately remembered her. A quiet, neat schoolgirl, she stood out from her classmates. That's what Michael thought at the time. In fact, she didn't really stand out. Due to the poverty of that region, almost all children wore homemade clothes. Just Michael had very rich parents who allowed their child to go to foreign labels. The locals had never even heard of them. Michael was the son of a diplomat, which is why his family moved around a lot. He never went to the same school. He spent longer than 6 months of his higher education abroad, and when he graduated, his dad gave him a part of the business. So yes, Adriana thought all the right things about him. His parents really did pack it in big time. But the whole point was that Michael was not like the spoiled bums. He was the only child in the family, a welcome and long-awaited son. Therefore, all the benefits of his parents fell at his feet, even when he didn't ask for it. But Michael kept up with what he was given. He was constantly reading, learning, developing so that he could well be called a promising successor of the company. He clearly knew the structure of the business, understood marketing. So in a year of management, he managed to increase the capital almost threefold. His parents saw their son's aspiration and became complacent about his education. The only thing his parents were gravitating towards was his marriage now. His mother did not want to give her daughter away at all, and his father was always looking for a good match for him. Every now and then tried to introduce him to the daughters of some influential uncle. Michael tried to avoid these meetings. He was tired of matchmaking. He realized that for his father, money was important, and his son's disadvantage, and every second daughter was a copy of the first. Stupid, pouting lips, like copycat girls. Michael was bored and uninterested with them. That's why that evening the social network concert seemed to him extremely fateful. All the rest of the evening Michael watched videos with Adriana, remembered the school, and very closed in his thoughts. Adriana forgot all about Michael. She couldn't sleep, she was twisting and turning. The emotional shock was throwing her up in bed. It seemed to her that everything that had happened that evening was just a dream. She replayed in her head every conversation she'd had with Marcel. revisiting the pictures and seeing until the clock showed 4. She revisited the video once more, and only then did she fall asleep. The girl woke up deep past 12, checked her phone, tons of comments and likes. It seemed as if she woke up famous. Last night had created quite a sensation. Adriana reached out, checked all the comments, and came across Michael's comment. The guy wrote something like, "You're brighter than any star." What's that? Why would he write that? "We haven't even met," Adriana whispered. And then she remembered that Michael was at the concert too. Shit, that's right, we should meet. She went into the message, looking at everything Betty had written to him. So 8 o'clock tonight. Shit. I'm kind of not ready. Adriana continued to dialogue with herself. She put her phone away, walked to the bathroom, showered, brushed her teeth, and put a huge mask on her face. She went into the kitchen. The kettle was already hot. So there was someone else in the apartment besides Adriana? Adriana poured herself some tea, tapped the toaster, and waited for the bread to toast. "There's our star," came the voice of a neighbor. "Hello to you too. What took you so long to sleep?" "I couldn't sleep for a long time, my emotions got in the way. But of course, if I were on the same stage as Marcel Garland, I'd be crazy happy too." "Did you see it?" "I couldn't believe it. It was like a dream." "Of course you did. Come on, tell me what he's like." "Oh, he's so kind, so open. I once read an article that he's arrogant, but he's not. In fact, he's just ordinary, kind and considerate. He told us a lot of stories." You could see how tired he was. He had worked his ass off at the concert, so we didn't sit there for long. But it was magical. It was like my birthday was so cool. Adriana was sincere and very emotional about everything that happened yesterday. Adriana pulled out the toast, and it was like she was immersed in yesterday. She still couldn't believe that it was exactly with her. How unusual and fun today was. She felt somehow special, like she was the chosen one. She slurped down a cup of coffee and started breakfast. Her phone kept taking in from notifications, then lingered for a long time. Favorite Grandpa popped up on the screen. Adriana set aside her toast, corrected her voice, and picked up the phone with slight excitement. "Hello, hello, Grandpa. Hello, City." A deep, warm voice answered with a smile. "How are you doing?" "Well, what are we doing here? It's all in a circle. You're not calling at all." There was a chilly note in that warm voice. You could hear how upset the man was. Adriana knew that tone and dreaded it the most. She became anxious and nervous every time she heard it. She loved her grandparents more than anything. They were the truest parents in the world. To her, so pure, so selfless. She had never felt such an all-encompassing love from anyone. She had never felt such warmth, adoration, and patience from anyone in her surroundings. Adriana was afraid to upset them and didn't want to worry them at all. "I'm sorry, Grandpa, I've been traveling. Work, home, everything in a circle. What are you doing there? Then you don't see the light of day." "I'm growing up here, Grandpa. You're doing great." "I don't doubt you. Do you have any suitors?" "What grooms, Grandpa? Stop it." Adriana was embarrassed and even blushed a little. "What about you?" "It's time. You're a good-looking girl." "Grandpa, you better tell me how my Cossack is doing." "Adriana, you're crazy. She's completely out of hand. She's not obedient." Adriana he poked her affectionately. "I must." "She doesn't like to hurry, Grandpa." "I'll take her to Grandma." "I can't do that." "How's Grandma?" "Yes, she's good. It's fall. She's always in the garden." "Grandpa, I love you so much." "And we love you, my daughter. You call. She's not missing. We miss you," the man muttered with sincere sadness. "All right, Grandpa, don't be sad, please. Come on, be good. It's good there. Say hello to Grandma." Adriana hung up the phone and smiled. She missed her grandparents so much. She loved them very much. Adriana didn't bother to tell them about the concert. She knew that it worried the old people a lot. Grandfather didn't like the city at all. Adriana remembered how once she had gone to Moscow with him. He decided to take the girl to VDNK in the oceanarium. Adriana was just a little girl of about 5 or 6 years old. Like any child, she tired quickly and did not learn. The road was too long, and when they arrived in the metropolis, Grandpa himself was confused. The sun was blazing. There were all kinds of people around. Some were selling all sorts of things from children's toys to us, bakery products. Grandpa shook the child's hand and selflessly went through the crowd. There were different aromas in the air: cotton candy, popcorn, perfume, asphalt, cigarettes. This odor mixed and turned into something special. Adriana then decided that this was the smell of Moscow, something subtly special, expensive, and very serious. The girl's attention was attracted by a tent with Chinese toys. On a wide table, frolicking and jumping live toy plush little puppy with a glowing collar and leash. The girl scrutinized the toy carefully and intently. She liked it very much. But Adriana kept quiet, remained silent, and just scrutinized. "Grandfather, look." Adriana stretched out her small hand and pointed at the doggy. Grandpa remained silent and led the child over to the tent. The seller noticed the interest in the toy and turned on the sound on it. The puppy puzzled loudly from behind the scenes. "Grandpa, it's just like a real one." "Do you like it?" asked the man. Very mesmerized, whispered the girl. Grandpa turned to the seller. "How much is it?" "450. Quickly the salesman, "450, he repeated and patted his pockets. "So expensive." Almost in a whisper the grandfather said confusedly, and then turned to his granddaughter Adriana. "Let us buy it on the way back. We have more fish and pavilions ahead of us. We'll finish the walk and go home with the dog." "All right," the girl whispered sadly. They were short of money, so the grandfather decided to plan what he had for the whole walk and the way back, not to spend it all on the dog at once. The granddaughter and her grandfather moved forward, drowning in the crowd that changed direction every now and then. The girl kept looking at people, tall, short, fat, thin, full of hair and shaved under zero. So different, so many of them. Adriana had never seen so many people anywhere before. And then the grandfather and the girl came to the gates of VDNK, over which stretched a thin, unweighty thread of a strip with rails. "Look, now the subway will go there, the subway." Yes, these are underground electric trains on which many people ride. Where do they go? Like a bus. Some go to work, some go to school, some go on errands. The girl wanted to ask another question, but her eyes widened. She saw a small wagon that looked very much like the nose of an airplane, with a loop of trains stretching behind it. "Oh, grandfather, look!" loudly and tinklingly shouted out the girl. The train slowed down and spat out the passengers. Some got off, others got on quickly. The girl watched silently and very attentively. So attentively that on automatic she opened her mouth and stuck out the tip of her tongue. "Grandpa, where are they all going to go now?" "Well, probably to their homes. I honestly don't know how interesting that is, Grandpa." They walked on in silence, but Adriana kept following the people. Soon they reached the fountain. The girl exploded again, for in front of her stood a huge bowl, which was so vividly conveyed by the drops of water and gold in the sunlight. "Grandfather, look! It is the sea pouring out there. It is a fountain." The girl wrinkled her nose, repeated the fountain. "Fountain," once more coined the grandfather. "The fountain is still wrong," and loudly repeated Adriana. "But the fountain is so fountain." Grandpa laughed. Benjamin only pretended to be stern and serious. In reality, he admired Adriana. She was to him like a delicate flower, a fresh sprout, like a light summer flower. Windy gray-haired, large, with large calloused, clean hands. He gently and scrutinized the girl's every reaction as she smiled. It was as if something inside the man was exploding, tossing him above the ground. And when he returned, the years that had passed flew away like dust. Next to his granddaughter, he became young and joking. Finally, they reached the oceanarium. The girl stuck to each aquarium and scrutinized the fish. Someone called out, someone was frightened. And when the excursion was over, she laughed and fooled around the cardboard figure of a panda. When Adriana joked so carefree and cheerfully near the cardboard panda figure, Benjamin couldn't help himself and started laughing with her. His serious face was transformed as if illuminated by sunlight, and his eyes shone with joy and warmth. In the moment with Adriana's quality, he felt as if he had returned to his youth, when he was as carefree in silky Kiev. Suddenly he realized that in the company of his granddaughter he found not only joy, but also the opportunity to be himself without hiding his true feelings and desires. The oceanarium was the perfect place for this colorful couple to share the joy of discovery and the wonders of the marine world. Adriana marveled and admired every inhabitant of the aquarium, which embodied for her the mysterious and wonderful world of the underwater depths. Benjamin enjoyed watching her delight, knowing that these moments would remain in their hearts forever. As he studied Leighton's delight in the world and ability to find joy in the little things, Benjamin realized that it was important to retain a childlike naivety and ability to wonder even in adulthood. His heart was filled with warmth and gratitude for the opportunity to spend time with his granddaughter, for the fact that she reminded him of the simplicity and purity of a child's soul. When they stepped out of the intricately decorated building, it was already night outside. The sun had sunk below the horizon, leaving behind only a bright red streak. Benjamin patted his pockets, pulled out an old black and white cell phone, and assured time is while you and I are very busy. Pretty soon it's already the bus. The girl, overwhelmed with emotion, is very tired. We have to hurry, turned on the commanding voice Grandpa, and we will buy a puppy. The girl looked at him with round, hopeful eyes. I think so. Actually, Adriana was very hungry, but she knew that if they bought food too, she would never get a puppy. She was used to their family not having enough money or having enough money for one thing or another. So she'd made up her mind internally a long time ago. The way back was much faster. They did not walk anymore, only hurried. It was visible how worried the grandfather, so the girl tried to keep up with him. Finally, the huge golden gate was left behind. They slowed down a little and then stopped. The girl scrutinized the path where the tents with goods stood. She was worried that the salesman with the dogs had left, and her grandfather was looking for his cell phone again to make sure they weren't late. So it's okay, we don't have to run. Grandpa? I think the puppies are about to leave. A little girl flew by with a slight tear. It was true. The man who was selling the toys was already packing the goods into boxes. Wait, please. In a hoarse bass shouted the grandfather, grabbed his granddaughter by her small palm and ran towards the tent. We are closed. In a tired voice said the seller. Well, please sell us a doggy. Granddaughter liked it very much. And we won't be in Moscow for a while yet. Adriana began to shed tears. She tried to hold them back, but she didn't have enough strength, and she cried bitterly. But girl, stop it, don't cry, stop it, the salesman fussed and dipped his hairy hand into one of the boxes. Here, take it, but don't cry, please. He held out a small puppy to Adriana. How much is it? Asked Benjamin. No money. Just calm your daughter, let her stop crying. The pensioner was grateful and complimented the seller, but Adriana was very embarrassed. She wasn't used to such a gift. She wasn't used to getting something for nothing. She became very embarrassed, blushed, and tugged her grandfather's sleeve lightly. In her attempts to escape from this tent, the puppy was not as nice to the touch as Adriana had expected. Thick plastic. Feeling the hair beneath the soft plush shell, she was coming to desire the toy, despite her unreasonable expectations, and the three of them now hurried to the bus stop. Adriana remembered how they had almost been late and how quickly she had fallen asleep on the bus. The way back was very long. Something happened to the bus on the way. They were dropped off on Cold Street. The driver shouted something like "There's another one coming, wait," and drove off. There weren't many passengers, 10, but she was the only one so small. Exhausted, tired, she quickly began to freeze. Grandpa took her in his arms, pressed her hard against him and zipped her into his big jacket. It was enough for the two of them. Adriana remembers her grandfather smelling of tobacco, cologne, and something like Connie Foley. Such a cloyingly sweet smell. She remembered it forever. As soon as that memory floated before her eyes, she felt that smell as if she was hugging her grandfather right now. She felt so warm at that moment and very bitter at the same time. She missed her family. Did you see a ghost? There was a sharp voice of a neighbor, and Adriana asked her again. What's wrong? You've been sitting here for an hour. I even had time to go for a walk already. No, I just wondered what time it was. 6:30. Adriana jumped up from her chair and ran to the bathroom. She didn't like to get ready quickly, especially for important events, even though she tried to convince herself that meeting Michael meant nothing. She was very nervous. She felt it was her duty to make a strong impression on him, and to do that she needed a lot of time, years. I've gone. I heard from behind the door. Yes, I splashed my perfume a long time ago, Summer began to ask. With a grin, the girl replied and slammed the front door. Adriana tried to concentrate on the upcoming event, but excitement was taking over and her hands were not obeying at all. Today everything was going wrong, and the reflection in the mirror did not please Adriana at all. Although everything was as usual, classically muted makeup in soft shades, hair slightly loose under the twist and on the floor, perfumed neighbor, a light dress and rough shoes laced. Something in this image the girl did not like, and in general the mood was not so good. She tried to entertain herself, turned on some music, but even that didn't work. And then she decided to call her friend. "I'm not going out. You're crazy. Since yesterday, fate has been smiling down on you and giving you chocolate opportunities. And you're trying to resist. Are you stupid?" "I don't want to. I'm not in the mood to sit around smiling and listening to him talk about what he's done. Stop it. One more listen, and then you'll be smiling in the Maldives. It's totally worth it." "Ew, Betty, you know that's not my story. I don't want to put up with anything, but I'm stupid. Why did you even call me? You don't want to go. Let me go text my Michael's number. Although don't bother, I'm your friend. Let me see." "No, you're not going to do that." "Yes, I will. Yes, I will. If you don't go, I'll text you and I'll be driving his cool car tomorrow. You'll see. You're a snake, Betty." "All right, I've got half an hour. I'll go and have a cup of tea. Come on, and stop telling me all this stuff." The friend was like a cold shower on Adriana. In general, Adriana was really not the type to throw herself at other people's money. She didn't understand what she liked about Michael and why she decided to take this adventure. Perhaps the fact that they had once studied together, or the pleasant appearance of the young man, but something definitely worked, attracted. While Adriana pondered on the subject, her phone forbid vibrating. Before answering the call from an unknown number, the girl focused on the time. The clock showed 20:00, exactly the time the young man was supposed to pick her up. Hello, star," a confident male voice sounded. "Yes," with important deliberation, Adriana answered. She didn't yet realize who she was talking to. Michael's voice was unfamiliar to her. "Well, are you ready?" "I guess so. Who's that?" "The person you're supposed to meet today, Michael," the girl asked. "Well, if you haven't made arrangements with anyone else, then yes, Michael," replied the male voice with that smile you hear through a phone conversation. "Date. I thought it was just a reunion of classmates. But if you feel like it, you can call it a classmate meeting." "I don't mind." "All right, let this meeting not obligate you to anything and not give you false hopes," Adriana said with a very serious face. "Adriana, you're too serious. Relax and come out already." "I will. I just want to make sure we understand the purpose of the meeting." "Stop it. I'm in the driveway." The guy laughed and hung up. At that moment, Adriana felt very calm. She was glad that Michael understood her and her jokes. Her mood soared. But the bad mood was replaced by excitement. She had enjoyed this conversation, which meant she was afraid of disappointing Michael. She had no time left at all. It was time to go out. She carefully painted her lips and spritzed once more with perfume. Carefully went over her image, this time winking at her reflection in satisfaction, and left the apartment. The elevator stretched long, loud, and tugging. Adriana was really starting to get worried. At times like this, the girl was starting to get a little angry at everything around her. On one of the floors, the iron box rattled and opened the door. "Hello, how beautiful you are. The pudgy elderly neighbor Auntie Scylla is ill." "Good evening," Adriana said in a one-word voice, barely containing her irritation. "Where are you going so late?" "Out for a date." "Daughter, be careful. They say there's a maniac around here. Don't go to deserted places." "Okay." Adriana rolled her eyes, pulled out her phone to check the time. The clock read 20:10, but girls are supposed to be a little late, Adriana reassured herself. Aunt Clara tried to continue the conversation, but the elevator slowed down and the doors finally opened. The girl immediately slipped out and disappeared into the box of the entrance door. The intercom had no time to beep, and Adriana was already twisting her head around the curb and examining Michael's car. Suddenly, Adriana's waist was entered by a man's hand in a leather jacket and was coming to herself. Adriana was frightened, pushed the man away, did not keep her balance and crashed on the roadway. At this time, the car was already stopped driving in the yard, so the girl was safe, but hit her hip hard. Oh man, that hurt. "What are you, wild?" Holding out his hand to the girl, said the young man. "You're the one who was crazy, who on the first date to hug." Adriana shouted loudly, "Yeah, honestly, I don't know. It's just that you charmed me so much with your dress that I lost my head. I wanted to hug you so badly," Michael said softly, cat-like. "Don't ever do that to anyone else." Adriana said with a limp and a little whisper, "I'm sorry, let me make it up to you. It will cost you too much." Adriana pouted her lips playfully and followed Michael. The young man walked up to the newly honed foreign car and opened the passenger door. First he pulled out a lush bouquet of roses, held them out to Adriana, and then gestured for her to get into the car. Adriana accepted the bouquet in silence, but her face betrayed a frenzy of delight. No one had ever given her such lavish bouquets before. For a moment even the pain of the fall was gone. But as she was getting into the car, threw from the wave that had accumulated again. "But please forgive me, I didn't realize you were so fearful." The girl looked carefully at Michael, and instead of the matured, broad-shouldered guy in front of her appeared that boy from middle school, with whom they once skipped biology class. "Now you'll know," Adriana said mockingly. Michael closed the door softly and got behind the wheel. "Are you ready to go on a trip?" "A trip?" the girl asked. "Yes, I have a surprise for you." "Of course, I'm not Marcel, but I'll try to surprise you," he replied. Adriana immediately understood his joke and caught on. "You'll have to try harder." Michael pushed Adriana's seat away from the torpedo with one button, and after pressing the second one, the roof of the car went somewhere, and underneath it there was a transparent plastic through which you could see everything that was happening outside. Starry skies, night clouds floated right across the car roof. Road lights clung to Adriana's eyes. Michael, turning on soft music, was watching the girl. Gradually, Adriana relaxed and childishly marveled at everything she saw. "Look at that airplane." "Wow, wow," Michael said with a slight sneer. "Aha. And over there you can see the skyscraper with the tower." "Yeah, wow." Michael liked Adriana's reaction. She was so lively and natural. He tried to answer carefully so as not to offend. Gradually, the excitement began to subside, and the slight thrill was replaced by a pleasant feeling. They talked a lot with Michael, reminiscing about school. "Why did you leave?" "My dad is a diplomat, and my mom. My mom has a lot of companies, businesses that she was actively developing. Almost every city we've lived in has one of our companies. So you're a big shot?" Adriana asked with a smile. "Well, something like that." "Why do you talk like a normal person?" "What do you mean, normal?" "Well, you're not arrogant, not haughty, you know? Jokes, and generally so easygoing." "Well, I guess it's because I've seen different lives. I wasn't born in a golden diaper. So how are we living now? We haven't really lived forever." The car slowed down gently in front of a huge pompous building. Adriana looked carefully at the place they had come to. She had never been in such a beautiful place. "The carriage is served, madam." Michael opened the doors and gave the girl his hand. Adriana carefully got out of the car and carefully looked at the beautiful, substantial two-story building, the fence and the pond, in which well-groomed ducks swam, and everything was decorated with beautiful lanterns. "It's so beautiful here," the girl said, mesmerized. "Yes, I like it too. That's why we came here." Michael held out his hand to Adriana and together they entered the restaurant. That evening they joked and laughed. Adriana felt as if they had known each other for 1,000 years. The evening was magical. They laughed, shared stories as if they had never parted. It seemed as if at that very moment a story of pure new love was being born. When the restaurant closed and it was time to part, Adriana and Michael found themselves outside, enveloped in the night air and silence. They continued their conversation leisurely and reluctant to part. Michael felt a special warmth inside as he watched Adriana smiling and telling funny stories from her life. Walking back home, Michael thought about what had happened. He realized that Adriana had brought something special into his life that made him see the world around him in a new way. He felt that she could be the person he wanted to share his thoughts, dreams, and joys with. So began their fascinating acquaintance, full of adventures, meetings, and discoveries. Adriana and Michael became inseparable and friends. Their relationship developed quietly and gently, as if they were destined to be together. Each new day brought them joy and laughter, making them see the world differently. Their story became more and more interesting and mysterious, full of unexpected turns and wonderful moments, traces. And Michael realized that even the most ordinary things can become special if there is a faithful friend and companion nearby. They taught each other to be open and sincere, shared their secrets and dreams, and through this they found true happiness. Together they created their own world, filled with love, trust, support, which they kept in their hearts always. In the morning, Adriana, immersed in her thoughts about last night, realized that something had really changed inside her. Her heart beat faster. She smiled for no reason and felt a lightness inside her. Getting to work went slowly because every minute was filled with memories of meeting Michael. Calls and messages from her friends only reminded Adriana that something special had happened in her life, and she wanted to cherish this moment as a precious treasure. Her thoughts hovered in clouds of happiness, covering her world with an invisible blanket of tenderness and high feelings. All day long, Adriana worked, mechanically performing her duties. Her hearts were somewhere far away. She smiled involuntarily, remembering the words laughter and Michael's glances. Even the usual sounds of the office and the noise of coworkers couldn't break this magic she was experiencing. Adriana couldn't believe her eyes when a dark car stopped in front of her and a huge bouquet of flowers spilled out of it. She looked at the driver in surprise and recognized him as Michael, who was smiling at her as he sat behind the wheel. "Hi," he said. "I've been thinking about you all day and all last night." Adriana felt joy fill her heart. She replied, "I don't talk to Gerber strangers." Michael was not discouraged and continued, "But let's get to know each other." Adriana smiled and replied, "My heart is not free." Michael didn't give up. "But tell me who this rascal is," said the bouquet of flowers, behind which Michael himself was hiding. "Oh, it's yesterday's bouquet of roses." He made my head spin. Adriana laughed, accepting the bouquet. "Michael." She got into the car and they went on a night trip around the city. The wind of the magic nights carried with it the whispers of their conversations, their laughter, and the joy of their meeting. Everything around them seemed especially bright and alive, as if the world had come alive with new colors and sounds of a magical adventure. Adriana and Michael enjoyed every moment, as if time had slowed down to be able to enjoy this moment together. And even if the night lasted only a few hours, for them it became a symbol of freedom, love, and unique emotions imprinted in their hearts for years to come. The next week was a symbol of their dates, and every evening they spent together. The romance developed rapidly. On the weekend, Michael decided to prepare a surprise. He called Adriana. "Do you have a passport?" "No, I've never traveled anywhere. I haven't even been anywhere in our country." "Got it. You can send me a picture of your passport, but it's so intimate." "What are you up to?" "I want to take you to a magical land, but I'm working. I'm booked all day." "God, it's all such nonsense." "Adriana, don't tell me any more of this nonsense, please." Adriana was embarrassed, angry. Michael would so easily devalue her hard work and her job and her life in general. "Michael, what do you want?" "I'm busy." "Adriana, send me a picture of your passport. Don't worry. I'm not taking out any loans on you, but let me call you back." Adriana hung up and got even angrier. Maybe I was wrong about him and he's just as rich and cocky as everyone in his status. But she was angry, but she listened. So almost immediately after the conversation, she sent Michael's passport photo. Another half an hour later, Adriana received a call from her supervisor and from the head office. She had never heard him before. "Adriana, hello. Good afternoon. Could you come to the principal's office today?" "But it's my day off." "Yes, I understand. But there's an order from management. I sent it to your office for printing. Could you please give me half an hour of your time? It's important." Adriana turned pale, and for a while she didn't feel well. "Yes, I realized something had happened." "How can I tell you?" "You'll find out. I don't want to tell you everything yet. Anyway, goodbye, goodbye." Adriana started to get ready for work. She didn't understand what was going on or why it was like this. But she began to hurry. Her phone started vibrating, buzzing. Messages came in from Michael. "Look, I've done everything." And a photo of Adriana's new passport. Check the data also. Adriana glimpsed the messages. It seemed so unimportant and insignificant to her now. But yes, it was. Then get ready, we're leaving today. What's what? Surprise. I'm not packing. In fact, don't bring anything at all, we'll pick it up on the way. I can't. I got called into work right now in this. But go, you'll write later. Adriana was surprised by Michael's calmness, but the girl was too busy with a work call, so she didn't think about it. She called a cab and an hour later she was at the director's office. Adriana, come in. Mikhail Petrovich had a strange face, a completely incomprehensible emotion. Very serious and focused Adriana. In general, we received an order to familiarize ourselves with the document. The man held out a piece of paper, which said that Adriana was now in a new management position, but she would only have to start her duties in a month from now. The girl's eyes went wide. Yes, since we are formally dismissing you from your old position, you should get your paycheck and in a month you should start your new position with new responsibilities. So I congratulate you, you are now the new manager. Wait, but I don't know anything about this position. How am I supposed to work? You don't have to worry about that. You'll definitely have a briefing. All right, thanks. Adriana left the office and went to the accounting department. She was not paid as usual, but several times more. The girl realized that something was wrong here. Everything was too good. She took out her phone and dialed Michael's number. What's going on? What are you talking about? My job. The pay raise is out of line with my regular paycheck. You did this to me. No, it's just that you're talented. It's you. Why are you devaluing me like this? In all the time we've been talking, haven't you realized what kind of person I am? You're a beautiful, smart, talented person who has been sitting in a low position for an unreasonably long time and deserves better and more. How busy are you right now? You need to get ready. I'll pick you up in 0300. We're going on vacation. Michael hung up the phone without waiting for Adriana's reply. The girl didn't understand her feelings. In one moment she got everything she dreamed of, but she was not happy about it. It seemed to her that she did not deserve everything she had now. Standing at the window of her apartment, Adriana stared at the sunset, thinking about everything that had happened. Different feelings were struggling inside her. On one hand, shock and disbelief at the sudden change in her life. On the other, anxiety and fear that she wouldn't be able to live up to these new expectations. Michael had always been supportive of her, but his last act had caused a wave of mixed feelings. He tried to help, but Adriana felt her personal accomplishment overshadowed by his interference. It was 0300 hours later. When Adriana was snapped out of her musings by the beeping sound of her cell phone. They're on their way to pick me up, she thought. Quickly checking the notification, she slipped her passport, a couple of books, the necessary miscellaneous sundries into her bag. One last look around the apartment and stepped out, closing the door with a quiet click. In the car, Michael was full of enthusiasm and plans for the future. He didn't notice Adriana's nervousness, assuming that her silence was just anticipation of the upcoming vacation. But Adriana was still struggling with her thoughts. They took off at dawn, and Adriana reflected on how often in life we get what we want. But when we do, our feelings can be far from unequivocal. On vacation, Michael tried to provide Adriana with the best of everything, but she felt increasingly distant just there, away from the daily routine and away from responsibilities. The girl realized that success and happiness come not only from external achievements, but also from inner harmony and self-confidence. One evening, walking along the beach, Adriana finally got to talking, revealing her fears and doubts to Michael. She spoke of the importance of her own aspirations and achievements, of the need to be valued. For her own efforts, they for someone else's intervention. For her, it was as much about acknowledging her fears as it was about realizing the importance of self-assertion. Michael listened, trying to understand and accept her point of view. And then he admitted that his actions were driven by a desire to make her happy. But he realized that true happiness could not be imposed or bought. He had made the mistake of trying to accelerate her path to success without realizing that the real value of achievement lies in the process of conquering it. This conversation was a turning point in their relationship. They both realized that supporting and understanding the other is the most important thing. Back home, Adriana was determined to prove her competence and earn recognition. For her efforts, Michael promised to be there for her, not trying to control or speed up her path to her dreams. Now that they both valued and understood the importance of personal achievement and self-reliance, their relationship only grew stronger. Adriana realized the importance of not only succeeding, but also accepting herself, her fears and insecurities. With this realization, she embarked on a path of true self-discovery and happiness. After arriving from vacation, Michael and Adriana decided to live together. Living together opened new horizons for them. They began to learn how to coexist without losing their individuality. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities for growth and understanding. Adriana, inspired by her new awareness and Michael's support, dedicated herself to working in her new position. She was making a great showing. Her efforts were not in vain. After a few months, her candidacy received the recognition it deserved. It was a moment of triumph not only for herself, but also for Michael, who saw Adriana glow with happiness and satisfaction. He realized that true support lies not in leading by the hand, but in walking alongside, being ready to support during the fall. In turn, Michael found a passion for traveling and photography. He started a blog that quickly gained popularity with lively and sensual shots from their travels together. Adriana became not only his inspiration but also an indispensable critic, helping him find amazing locations for new shots. Their home became a place of creativity and inspiration. The walls were adorned with Adriana's paintings and Michael's photographs of their adventures. Friends and family loved spending time there, enveloped in an atmosphere of genuine love and support. In these moments, they especially felt how important harmony in relationships is. Months flew by behind all these events, and their relationship kept getting stronger and stronger. And they learned to enjoy the little things, to accept each other's flaws as features that made them unique, and most importantly, to love unconditionally. Difficulties and setbacks that once seemed insurmountable were now seen as a chance to become even stronger and wiser. One evening, sitting on the roof of her house and watching the stars, Adriana told Michael, "You know, everything that has happened to us has made me realize one of the biggest journeys imaginable, a journey deep inside myself, my dreams and desires. And to share that journey with someone who understands and accepts you as you are is a boundless happiness." Michael, smiling, took her hand and answered, "I will always be there for you. By following you or leading you, depending on what you need, we build our own world together. And I don't apply it to anything." At that moment, Michael realized that it was time for them to grow closer, that he owed it to his parents to tell them about his decision to marry Adriana by all means. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, replaying in his head different scenarios of the upcoming conversation with his parents over the past few months. More and more often, he found himself thinking that he couldn't imagine life without Adriana. She was exactly the kind of girl he couldn't even think of in his wildest dreams. In her presence, the world acquired special colors, and Adriana's endless creativity and curiosity always supported Michael's desire for new achievements. Michael realized that he wanted to spend Adriana's life, that she was the girl he dreamed of. Only now he would have to have a serious talk with his parents. All this time he had been procrastinating and putting off talking to his mom. He knew they would be against Adriana. He immediately remembered those endless meetings with the daughters of powerful people and became upset. But just the thought of the upcoming dialogue with his parents made his heart clench. He knew how many hopes and expectations were invested in his suitable choice of a wife from the same social environment, with the same views on life. And although Michael treasured his freedom and independence, somewhere deep down he was still afraid of disappointing his family. After analyzing all the pros and cons, Michael realized that he could not compromise on his happiness. He decided to have a frank and honest conversation where he would lay all Adriana's trump cards on the table, talk about her extraordinary talents, rich inner world, and how she inspires him every day. After gathering his strength, Michael invited his parents over to his apartment for dinner. He carefully prepared for this meeting, prepared exquisite dishes that would win favor, and beautifully decorated the house to create a cozy and pleasant atmosphere for dialogue. When it was time to talk, Michael took a deep breath and began, "Mom, Dad, I know you've always wanted the best for me. Believe me, I aspire to a good life too. But my happy life is with Adriana. Please, please just give her a chance. She's out of our league. Yes, but her intelligence and kindness make her the richest and most influential in the whole world to me." Michael's parents listened, trying to understand and accept his point of view. Seeing how seriously their son was taking the issue and sensing the genuine passion in his voice, they began to slowly open up to the possibility of changing their minds. The dinner ended better than Michael could have imagined, although the parents were not yet fully convinced. They agreed to meet Adriana to get to know her better. This move filled Michael with hope. He believed that in time, love and sincerity could overcome any prejudice. He was determined that it was time to propose. However, he wanted this moment to be special and unforgettable for both him and Adriana. He began to run through different ideas in his head, trying to choose the most ideal one. After much deliberation, Michael chose a place that had a special meaning for both of them. It was a small, cozy park on the outskirts of the city, where they first confessed their feelings to each other. One summer evening, Michael decided that there was no better place to propose. He began to secretly prepare for the proposal, taking the choice of ring with all seriousness. Michael spent several days searching for the perfect ring that would reflect Adriana's unique beauty and delicate mental organization as accurately as possible. In the end, his choice fell on an elegant ring with delicate sapphires surrounded by shimmering diamonds. The ring was the epitome of elegance and sophistication that Michael so appreciated in Adriana. The day of X came unexpectedly quickly. Michael arranged everything in time for the evening, ordered Adriana's favorite dishes as an outdoor dinner, and rented a quiet corner of the park where he set up a table decorated with candles and rose petals. Everything was ready for the evening to be truly magical. When Michael met Adriana, her face immediately lit up with a smile. She was unaware of the upcoming event, believing that they were in for a simple, pleasant, romantic evening. But as they approached the decorated table, Adriana looked around and looked at Michael enigmatically, trying to make sense of the surprise on his face. After dinner, when the sunset was already beginning to color the sky with warm colors, Michael took Adriana's hand and led her to the shore of the small lake that was nearby. There, face to face, under the warm light of the setting sun, he got down on one knee and took out the ring and said, "Adriana, these months with you have been the happiest time of my life. You make my heart sing, and I can't imagine my life without you by my side. Adriana, will you be my wife?" The young man was very worried. Adriana froze for a moment in surprise with her mouth slightly open. But then her face and smile, her eyes filled with tears of happiness, and she whispered. That moment seemed like an eternity, hovering between the past and the future, full of love and happiness. Adriana, radiant with happiness, nodded without finding words and whispered her yes, which sounded like music to Michael's ears. He gently placed the ring on her finger, and they embraced under the starry sky, cementing the moment that would be the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The next day, Adriana decided it was time for her in-laws to know what was going on in her life. She called her grandfather often, but never told him about Michael and her new life. Since with Michael they had moved on to a new phase of their relationship, Adriana knew it was time. First she talked to Michael. They planned a trip to the country, and then she called her grandfather. "Hi Grandpa, hi Bizingsy. How are you doing?" "All is well," with a slight excitement the girl answered. "And what is it that you are worried about?" Grandpa realized from the first notes of her voice that she was going to say something. "Grandpa, I'm getting married." "How can it be so soon? You didn't tell me anything at all." "I didn't want to worry you. We'll visit you tomorrow. He's a wonderful man. You have nothing to worry about." The next day, Adriana ran to all the stores, got some presents, and in the evening she and Michael went to the village. It wasn't a long way, and all the way Adriana was very worried. Michael held her hand and tried to distract her. He told jokes and stories. Finally, he turned to her with a serious face. "Adriana, my soul, stop it, and you have nothing to worry about. In a month's time, we will be married to you. Your grandparents love you and trust your choice. Just relax. It's going to be okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I haven't seen them in a while and I can't get over it. Don't mind me." The couple sang songs and joked the rest of the way, so Adriana arrived in high spirits. The old folks gave a lovely welcome to the granddaughter and her fiancé. Grandmother baked pies. Grandpa buried a duck. Michael told about himself, about his intentions. Adriana twirled around the groom and praised him all the time. Everything went just fine. Grandmother put them to bed on a warm bed under a fluffy blanket. The next morning, along with the first rays of sunshine, a sense of joyful bustle enveloped the house. A regal breakfast was prepared for Adriana and Michael. At the table, future plans were discussed and life stories were shared. Grandma and Grandpa looked at the young ones with affection and approval, making occasional meaningful remarks about home traditions and family values through a smile. After breakfast, Grandpa suggested a walk through the old family garden, where every tree and bush was connected to the history of their family. Slowly wandering between the slender rows of trees, he talked about their ancestors, about the hard but happy village life, about how important it was to appreciate and preserve family traditions. Adriana, holding Michael's hand, immersed herself in these stories, feeling herself a part of something big and important. Her grandmother shared her family recipes with the Traces and showed them how to cook their most famous dishes. Adriana listened attentively, asked questions, helped. Feeling herself a true keeper of the home, from time to time she intercepted Michael's glances filled with pride and love. In the evening, under a cup of fragrant tea, grandfather suddenly became serious and turned to Michael. "Young man, I can see the spark in your eyes when you look at my granddaughter. It means a lot. But you know, love is not just a feeling, it's a daily choice, a work on yourself and on the relationship. Promise me you'll take care of her for the rest of your life together." Michael, taking Grandpa's hands in his own, respectfully promised to be a true support and protector for Adriana. As night fell on the village, everyone settled down in the parlor, discussing the details of the upcoming wedding. Suggestions were listened to for everyone's wishes. The atmosphere of unity and understanding only made Adriana and Michael more confident in their decision. Before drifting off to sleep, Adriana was happy to note that her fears and anxieties were behind her. She felt supported and blessed by the most important people in her life, and nothing seemed insurmountable anymore. For now, they were not only husband and wife, but part of a deep, strong family history. In the morning, the young people said goodbye to their elders and went home quietly to prepare for the wedding. Adriana flipped through her phone for new styles of wedding dresses. Images of the celebration kept popping up in her head. She imagined walking down the aisle, how beautiful Michael would be in his suit. She was absolutely happy. Upon her return, Adriana began to actively prepare for the celebration. The only thing that embarrassed her was Michael's parents. Despite the warm dinner and formal approval of her candidacy, the girl's heart was not in the right place. It seemed to her that something could go wrong. At the same time, she trusted Michael. But they were also his parents. There was nothing she could do to influence the course of the story. Eventually, the wedding routine came to an end. The organization was almost completely finished. The wedding was a week away. In the morning, Adriana left on business to solve something with the musicians, and Michael's phone vibrated. It was his mom calling. "Hey Mom, you're home early. What's up, son?" The woman was very worried. "Everything's great. We're all set for the wedding. My daughter's gone to put the finishing touches on it." "Are you coming, son?" "Actually, that's why I'm calling you. You need to cancel the wedding. You can't marry that girl." "No, I'm not." "You have to marry someone else." "Yeah, Mom." "That's a funny joke," laughed Michael. Did he really think Mom was joking? "No, Michael, I'm not joking. I'm serious." "Well, then we're ending this conversation, and I'm just hanging up." "Michael, look, Dad's in trouble. The only way this situation is going to work out is if you marry the prosecutor's daughter. It might be a sham marriage, but it's the only thing that'll help. Otherwise, your father will go to jail and the branches will close." "Mom, are you even listening to what you're saying? How am I supposed to explain all this to Adriana? It would break her heart for Adriana. But you'll find another Adriana. Half the regions have them." "Adriana, Mom, it's up to you. I'll stay out of your and Dad's business, but if you do, Dad will remove you from your position and live with your fiancé's carcass in her village, or on the set, whatever she's used to." Michael put the phone down on the table. His hands were trembling slightly. His mind was a merry-go-round of thoughts and emotions. He found it hard to believe that the conversation with his mom was real. His heart beat faster at the thought of Adriana. He knew this would be a real blow to her. Tears came to his eyes at the painful thought of possibly losing a loved one to family intrigue. Michael's gaze fell on a picture of him trailing and in an embrace smiling. "No," he whispered, through gritted teeth, feeling a determination reminiscent of his inner world. There had to be a way out of this situation without sacrificing his happiness. Michael got up and walked around the room, trying to get his thoughts together. He needed to think through all the nuances to come up with a solution that would be acceptable to all parties. At this point, it was obvious that Adriana and their shared future came first for him. Inspired by love, Michael picked up his phone and sprang into action. His first step was to call his father, to see how deep the problem went and if there was any other way out. The conversation was difficult but constructive. The father admitted that the situation was very serious, but also expressed his willingness to look for other solutions. Next came the organization of a meeting with the prosecutor himself. Michael wanted to understand if there was any way to resolve the matter without a marriage proposal. In the meantime, Adriana was returning home, full of energy and inspiration for the final preparations for the wedding, unaware of the threats hanging over their happiness. The meeting with the prosecutor went better than expected. It turned out that, among other things, the officer was a man of principles and was even willing to listen to Michael's arguments, but was adamant. This is what broke the young man's heart. He did not want to admit that he was the only tool in this machine of business. In the evening, he confessed everything to Adriana and told her that the wedding had to be called off. He was being cruel. Michael didn't want Adriana to think badly of his family, so he lied. "I don't love you, I want you to leave." "What are you talking about? We're getting married. Please go away. I don't want to see you again." In tears, the girl packed her things. She didn't understand anything at all. She didn't believe Michael, but she left. Confirmation that the guy had deceived her. Became a message from his mom. Valentina Sergeevna felt that this time Michael really fell in love, so she decided to write Adriana a message to soften the blow. "Adriana, please understand Michael. It's not his fault what's happening, but he's probably the one who's going to suffer the most. Don't blame him, it's the right thing to do. Once this is resolved, he'll come back for you." Adriana was flooding with tears. She felt as if a part of her soul had been torn out. She came to the village and sobbed half the night in her grandfather's arms. She told him everything that had happened. He listened attentively to his granddaughter. It pained him to see her suffering. He silently stroked her head, and when the girl fell asleep from helplessness, the old man firmly decided to teach this family a lesson. And they would never see Adriana again. In the morning, the man took Adriana to work in the fields. He believed that the busier she was, the less her thoughts would be occupied by her wounds. And so it happened. At first, the girl suffered a great deal, but each week she lived in the village became easier and easier. She longed for Michael very much, but quickly weaned herself from him. Michael did not call or write. He married someone else, but life with her did not work out. He loved Adriana for real. When his father was cleared of the charges, the first thing he did was go to Adriana's house. Knocked on the old door, opened the door. "Grandpa Benjamin, hello. Get out, you puppy. I know you're mad at me, and Adriana hates me. But I have to explain you have to leave, and you don't owe anyone else anything." The man was adamant. "Forgive me." The boy fell to his knees and burst into tears. "I'm going to get the gun. Get out to here. Golden child. Don't look so rich." Michael got up and walked to his car, but he was in no hurry to leave. He was determined to track down Adriana and talk to her. Spent the night in the car. In the morning, I heard the girl going somewhere. She was saying goodbye loudly to her family. The front door slammed, and then the wicket door shrieked. Adriana shouted to Michael. "Adriana, honey." Adriana gasped at Michael. "What do you want?" "Wife, forgive me, I can't live without you." "Just because you're bad, go to your wife. There's nothing for you to do here. I've forgotten you and I don't want to know you." Michael got out of the car, fell to his knees in front of her, begged her to forgive him, cried like a child. "Michael, go away. I forgive you and let you go. Mind your own business. There's nothing more for you to do here." "Adriana, I'll tell you everything. Give me time to prove my love." "I don't have time. Text or call, whatever your mom does." She turned around and left. Her morning all burst into flames. She was in unbearable pain. She remembered everything that had happened. The tears rolled like crystal balls. She couldn't stop. She could see the sincerity in Michael's eyes now, but she was adamant. Michael saw the pain in Adriana's eyes, but decided he had to beg forgiveness and tell her everything. He believed he could win her back. He went to the nearest town, bought flowers, came back and waited for her. By evening, Adriana returned. Michael walked over and took her hand. "We need to talk. I need to explain everything to you." He held out the bouquet, but the girl pushed it away. That night, Michael slept in the car again. He followed Adriana until she agreed. At one point, even Benjamin felt sorry for the guy. "Well, go talk to him. He's been living in the car for almost a month now. That's just his problem. He humiliated me, but whatever he did, he repented. Try living in a car that long. He should at least get a bath. He should be fed." "I feel sorry for the guy. Grandpa, whose side are you on?" Dumbfounded, Adriana cried out, Come, man, daughter, take it. Grandma has baked pies and poured tea in a thermos. We are not animals." The girl took the basket and went out into the yard. Michael didn't look like himself. He had lost a lot of weight. There were bruises under his eyes from fatigue. "Hi, here's something to eat." "Hi, thank you. Tell me what I need to know." Michael greedily devoured the food, then started kissing Adriana's hands, begging for forgiveness. Told her everything that had happened, hugged her knees and cried. She couldn't stand it. Back to the house they went together. Michael repeated the story to the pensioners, and the grandfather spared him. He saw how hard it had been for him, and how adamant Adriana had been, and the man forgave him. The following week, Michael and Adriana returned to town together, but there was no rush to get married. One evening, Michael's parents arrived unannounced. Valley and John, like Michael, apologized to Adriana. The girl did not expect such a turn, and at some point she felt uncomfortable. She forgave all Michael and his parents. Adriana quite sincerely crossed this period out of her life. She loved Michael and was ready to do anything for their happiness, so she never remembered the past again. Soon they played a wedding, and everything was exactly as Adriana had dreamed.